Hello, beautiful mummies, and welcome to another episode of the Real Mummy Podcast. Before we get started, I want to extend a sensitive content warning for today's episode. In this episode, we will be discussing postnatal depression, a topic that can be deeply emotional and potentially triggering for some of our listeners. We understand that this subject can evoke strong feelings, and it's important to us that you take care of your mental and emotional well-being. If you find this topic particularly challenging or you're not in the right headspace to listen today, please take care of yourself and consider skipping this episode. Join us next week for another topic that might be easier for you to engage with. For those who choose to stay with us, know that we approach this conversation with the utmost sensitivity and respect. We aim to shed light, offer support, and hopefully provide solace to anyone who may be struggling with or affected by postnatal depression. If you need additional resources or support, please visit our website at www.realmummypodcast.com, where we've compiled helpful links and contact information for professional help. Thank you for tuning in, and let's proceed with empathy, understanding, and compassion for all the wonderful mums listening today. Welcome to the Real Mummy Podcast, where we dive into the beautiful chaos of motherhood, one story at a time. I'm your host, Lucy, and today we're chatting with my lifelong friend, Tam, about the raw, unfiltered reality of becoming a mum. From the euphoric highs to the unexpected lows, we're talking about everything from the shock of losing our independence to the heartwarming moments that make it all worthwhile. We'll share our breastfeeding struggles, the guilt we feel when things didn't go as planned, and the overwhelming sense of love that keeps us going. Tam's here to open up about her journey with postnatal depression, the challenges of maintaining her identity, and the rollercoaster ride of emotions that is motherhood. Whether you're a new mum, a seasoned parent, or just curious about what it's like to step into the world of nappies and night feeds, this episode is for you. Get ready for some heartfelt honesty, a few laughs, and maybe even a tear or two. Let's dive in. Hi, Tam. Welcome to Real Mummy. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hi, Lucy. Thanks for having me.
So excited. I'm so excited for you to come on and share your motherhood journey because we've known each other for a long, long time now.
Oh God, very long time. Yeah, I'm excited. This is going to be good.
I was trying to work out. It must be. It's over 20 years.
Yeah. Yep. It is actually. Yeah, I think 21, 22.
Yeah, mental. So, it's crazy. I was when you became a mum and then I started the podcast, I was like, oh my God, I really want to get you on and talk about, I suppose, about the shock of becoming a mum and, we've spoken about it so many times, when we have a cuppa and a catch up and, I remember you were quite social like me and you're quite independent and had a career. And then, it's quite a shock then becoming a mum.
Yeah, most definitely. The independence thing and the, I suppose, losing sense of yourself.
Yeah.
It's all about the baby and the family unit as well, because that doesn't get thrown aside. It's about your family unit, but it's the individual needs for sure.
Yeah.
Who you were, your identity.
There's so much to it. And that's why I'm I want to share this on this podcast because there might be mums who are feeling a little bit like that and maybe feeling guilty for feeling like that. And you know what? It's okay. We were people before we had kids. I was Lucy before I became a mum, and it's sometimes it's okay to mourn that side of our lives. And doesn't mean I want to be doing that. I love being a mum, but sometimes we can just acknowledge that it was a little bit of a hard transition to becoming a mum, a bit of a shock.
Yeah. Definitely, most definitely. That mourning, definitely there is a mourning process with it.
Yeah.
And still trying to find that little part. Just we're not going to be that person ever again, but we can have those moments where we can enjoy those little bits of being that person.
Yeah.
And it takes time. It takes time to have those moments.
It does take time. My girls are almost 3 and 5 now. So I've noticed a lot more me being able to do this. Whereas how old is your little boy now?
He's just over 10 months old.
So he's still little.
Still.
Oh my God. So he still needs you a lot, you're still mum 24/7,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very dependent on me.
Yeah. Fun age though.
Oh, it's great. We're having so much fun. Like his personality is shining through right now. And we have so much fun. He's like my little best friend. I love
Oh,
it.
I love, and he's
It's
so
great.
cute. He's so cute. Oh my God. Like, so did you always know that you wanted to be a mum, Tam? You know, like we had, you know,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I, from a very, very young age, very maternal. Like I remember in primary school, those babysitting jobs, like
yeah,
stuff like that. I didn't know when, but I always knew I was going to eventually have kids.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
what did you find, you know, becoming a mom? It's, you know, amazing, most beautiful, magical thing. Did you find though, like, was it a shock? Like we mentioned before, like, did you find it a big shock becoming a mum?
Huge, major shock. It's a lot of small things that people don't tell you about, but they all lead to it. And it's funny, you go home from the hospital with this new baby and you don't know what to do with it. And they're like, but like you're all good and everything's fine. You've been cleared and checked out of the hospital and everything's okay. But you honestly have no idea what you're doing. And it's quite scary in the sense of like how like you yourself are trying to manage it, like becoming a parent, but also getting to know this little new person that's part of your life. Like, they weren't there the day before or 3 days before. It's, yeah, it is a shock. Like, I think shock's an understatement, but I can't even think of another word for it.
Well, that's the thing. It's kind of like you've gone through this traumatic birth. Like, not everyone has a traumatic birth, but, you know, like, you know, you go through this massive episode of your life and then you're kind of just sent home with this human. So it's like, A, you've got this new role as a mum, and then B, you've got to look after this little human. And yeah, like and then especially I found, like, I was like, wait, you're telling me I'm allowed to take this baby home. I've got no qualifications. Like, you know, there's no one at home. It's not like the old days. There was no village. There's no like nanas and aunties and all that to help you. Like, you're literally going home with your husband who's like, I have no idea. Never held a baby. Like,
Yeah, yeah. And not only that, like for me personally, because I had emergency C-section, we looking after myself. Like I've just been through this huge experience, so I've got to now manage myself as well and deal with everything I've gone through, and try and just start our new life. Like it's really, it's a lot. It's a huge emotional roller coaster. It takes a toll big time.
I think as well, when you put, like, when you're pregnant, you kind of put these ideas in your head of how it's going to look, your birth, you know, your pregnancy, your birth, bringing in the baby home, those first few months, becoming a mum. And sometimes it's like things don't work out the way you want it to work out. And it's a bit of a shock in that way as well. It's like a massive transition.
Huge transition. And that's, you have this idea, and it's definitely not what you imagine it to be.
Yeah.
Like it is beautiful and it is amazing, and like the feeling you can't describe, but there's that also that not so amazing side of it that you don't expect to happen when you've got this new baby in your home.
Yeah.
Like we were so tired and exhausted, we just went to bed. Like we didn't picture that to happen. We thought we'd come home and be in the moment, be beautiful, and the stereotypical taking photos and all that. No, we just wanted to go shower in bed.
Yeah.
Bucket. Yeah. No. So, it is a huge shift, massive.
And I think that's why, like, I remember I caught up with my girlfriends a while ago, and they were my mum friends I met through a mum's group, which was absolutely fantastic. And because I really struggled those first few months. It was a big shock, like with everything. And I kind of, had all these feelings and all these things going on. And then I said to my friends recently, we had all the kids at the park, and I said, did you find it a shock becoming a mum? Like, was it harder than you thought? And they both work in childcare, and they both looked at me and they're like, God, yeah. They're like, oh my God, it was so much harder than I thought it was going to be. And it was like, okay. I was like, okay, I think I'm onto something here. And then after speaking to so many mums, they're like, it was, no one can prepare you for it. Like it's.
No, they honestly can't. You can read every book, you can listen to every podcast, you can look at every blog, you can talk to everybody you know, or your mum friends, your mother, your grandparents, but you still cannot be prepared for that moment. You really can't. There's that shift, and you feel it. Like there is a huge shift.
It is. It's crazy. And there's so much to it. Like for me, I was like the sleep. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I've read I read all the books. I was like, I know what I'm going to do. And then everyone was like, put them to bed by 7. Don't feed them to sleep, da, da, da. And I was like, yep, I've got this. And then, with Maisie, my eldest, it did not go that way at all.
No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. What works for someone else doesn't work for somebody, and you've got 2 children.
Yeah.
Like, your girls are so different.
So
what
different.
might have worked for your first definitely didn't work for your second, because they're individual little people too. They have different needs. And at that point of time as a parent as well, it's what you can give them it's how you guys work together.
Yeah.
It's just different. Yeah.
And that's what I found with the sleep. I was like, I was like, oh my God, I lived and breathed about naps and sleep and all that. And, but I honestly thought when I was pregnant, I just assumed, when babies were tired, they slept.
Yeah.
Call me silly.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
But
honestly, they don't. And the old saying, sleep when the baby sleeps.
Oh my God.
You can't, because you've got so much to do. And then they're awake.
And then they have these 30-minute cat naps. And it's like, honestly, the amount of things I would be able to get done in those 30 minutes was impressive. Like, oh my God, like with a couple of minutes to spare, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I can sit down for 2 seconds before the baby wakes.
Just make a cup of coffee and then they wake. But it was just like, did you find that as well? Like the whole sleep thing was harder, like with naps and putting them to bed and settling them.
Yeah. I think also too, like the settling part of things, like there's so many techniques and things like what was right for us. And also like us ourselves, like sleep deprivation is insane. So for the first 3 weeks of Quinn's life, he needed to be fed every 3 hours because he was quite jaundiced.
Mm-hmm.
So we were only getting an hour and a half sleep, if that, between those 3. So like days and nights rolled into each other. But in that time, like, we're not getting Quinn into a proper routine because we're having to wake him up if he was sleeping.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to. So this is where we started getting to a point. It was like, is this going to be like this forever?
Yeah.
Because we had to wake him up on the dot of 3 hours to feed him, right? But then there's a baby awake, and then we're awake, trying to settle him. It's like, we've got to feed him in an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until maybe 2 months of age we started getting into a proper routine. And then the 4-month sleep regression hit. Oh, my God.
I think that's the thing. It was the sleep deprivation. Like, I was so sure. I was like, I'm a nurse. I've done night shifts. I was like, I'm so ready for lack of sleep. But it's different, like staying up all night and, and then being able to go sleep during the day. It's so different. And then like the amount of sleep mums get when, in those first few months is ridiculous. Like I think I remember having like 45 minutes one night with Maisie. That was it all night. And then I had to get up and do the day on my own. Mm-hmm. And I was like, now I look back now, because my kids are obviously older and they sleep through. Now I look back, I'm like, how the hell did I do that? Like, I actually don't know.
It's amazing what your body and mind can do to push you through that stage of life. Like, I honestly can't explain that. It's amazing. Like, no sleep. And you still function.
Yes.
You still get your child dressed and fed, and you play and interact and education.
Yeah.
And the bare minimum for yourself probably, but you functioned and you survived the day.
Yeah. I think that's what...
do it over again.
I think that's what kind of is the part of the way to the shock, because it's kind of like you're already shocked at becoming a mum, but then you've got the sleep deprivation. And then when you're a first time mum, you're literally like, oh my God, do they ever sleep? Am I ever going to sleep again? And you kind of find yourself like I did. I kind of went in this hole. I was like, I'm the only one at night up, and I was like so lonely and just like, I was like, oh my God. But I promise for mums who are listening, like it does get better. Like I promise you it does. Like Tam, your baby's 10 months now and you're having good night sleeps,
He sleeps through the night.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sleeps
11, 12 hours.
Exactly. And it's not a competition. Like every kid is different. Like Maeve definitely wasn't sleeping through the night at that age, but eventually they all sleep through the night. They do. So, but
they don't sleep through the night. They might settle easy. They start to self-soothe. Like they do their own little things. Where like with Quinn, like he's currently quite emotional and going through things. So he's screaming in the middle of the night and we're waking up. But even with those moments, I'm still getting sleep.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
so, yeah, everyone will eventually get to that point for sure.
You do,
with the
but
sleep.
it is a shock. The sleep, there's a whole thing in itself. That's a whole episode in itself. But yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
such a shock.
But
And
you
then
do manage.
you do manage, and somehow we do it. Like I said, like sleep deprivation is a form of torture. Like, but somehow, yeah, but somehow we can do it, and it does. Yeah, a massive shock, but we do it.
Yeah, we do. And it's worth it.
For me as well, I found becoming a first-time mum, like I had all these expectations. Obviously, sleep was one of them, you know, that nothing went away how I went it to go. And breastfeeding was another one. Like I was like, I'm 100% going to breastfeed. And I went to the classes at the hospital and I did all of those. I was like, my best friend's a midwife. Like I'm laughing, like everything's fine. And I was, you know, and then it didn't work out the way I wanted it to work out. And that was another big shock. And it kind of, all these things I kind of think chip away a little bit and you just, yeah. How about you? Did you breastfeed Quinn?
No, I did breastfeed Quinn and it was not an easy journey. It wasn't. So he was born with a slight tongue tie as well. And you hear about tongue ties all the time. But what I wasn't aware of is it's not just the tongue tie. It's everything. It's the lip tie, the palate of the mouth. And I didn't know, I wasn't aware of all this stuff. And we went to a lactation consultant and he was 6 weeks old. Best thing we did.
They're brilliant, aren't they?
Oh my God, worth their weight in gold. If anyone is seriously struggling, or not even struggling, they still think they've got it and there's a good routine. It's worth to go. It's worth it.
It's so worth it. Yeah.
It is worth going because I was like straight up like, we're going to do breastfeeding because my milk came in quite early, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Like we collected colostrum when I was able to at 27 weeks. Like we did all that stuff and I thought, well, this is going to be fine. I'm not having any issues with this. And then the moment came when I went to feed him after I had him and I was like, this is so awkward. It is so like, because they're so fragile and tiny and this and that. And like, I'm quite a big busted woman as well. So when the milk came in, like, I was scared that I was going to, you know, cover his head with my breast. Yeah, like so scared. Like I couldn't see what was going on.
Yeah.
And then just dealing with all of that and stuff. And like, it wasn't that I was against like going formula feeding. I just wanted to give it a go. Just to see if we could do it. And it was like, oh, okay, we'll do this. And oh my God, it's the most unnatural, natural thing ever. Like it doesn't just happen. It doesn't just click because you don't know what you're doing. You really do need to talk to people and seek advice and do a bit of research, I think, and not get so hung up either if you can't do it.
Yes. Yeah.
And I did. Definitely. I don't know about you.
I did. I got the guilt so bad because I struggled with Maisie. Like we called the midwives in the hospital were calling her lazy Maisie because she would literally just lay there with my nipple in her mouth, refusing to suck. And she just wouldn't. And for the first few days, I was just like syringing it into her mouth, like collecting it and syringing it for the first few days. And then she would I'd have to use like a nipple shield. That was the only way because her mouth was so tiny. Like she literally couldn't get my nipple in her mouth and she just couldn't suck. And she was only little. And then she kind of would only like to feed with a nipple shield, which was just anyone that's using one of them, just it's so awkward putting them on and off. It's just, especially in public, it's fine at home when you're out in public and your baby's crying and you're trying to put the shield on and then, it's just, it's just so another awkward. It's just another thing to worry about. And then
it's just another thing to pack and
it is. And then because I didn't realize this later and then my supply was just dropping and I started pumping and then I found out later on that the nipple shields, my friend was telling me that because she wasn't actually stimulating my nipple straight to contact, so my supply wasn't getting what it should have been. So she was like losing weight. She was jaundiced. It was just, it was a nightmare. And same thing, I saw a lactation consultant and try this, try that. It was horrible. And then by about 8 weeks, they kind of said, look, you don't have the milk. You need to give her some formula. But then once she had the formula, she didn't want the boob anymore because she's like, oh my God, I'm actually getting fed. And
this is great.
Yeah. And I remember like opening a tin of formula, crying because I felt like such a failure as a mum because I couldn't.
We've all been there.
I know because I couldn't feed my baby. And I was just like, oh my God. Because you have these expectations in your head. And I was just so shocked that it was so difficult and why it wouldn't work. And Yeah, and it took me a while to kind of, but then she was like the happiest, healthiest baby, and it was great. And then like Maeve, on the other hand, I was like, I went in with like, you know what? If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Didn't put these expectations on myself. I had the formula in the pantry ready to go. And I had the emergency cesarean as well. So I was like, she's probably not going to feed after that. But I said to the midwife, look, while I'm in recovery, if you can pop her on the boob, do. And she did. And I remember being unconscious and she was feeding from my boob. And I was like, what the hell? Yep. And she took to it, and she was the same size as Maisie. My boobs hadn't changed, but she just straight away. And I was like, what the hell? It was just weird. And she fed so well, I think
amazing.
6 months, and then she'd had enough, and then so had I by that point. But so weird. And it just shows, like you said, every kid is different. Every journey is different.
100%. We do put a lot of stress on ourselves though as women to breastfeed.
Yes.
And it's not as simple as it is, and everybody is different. And it's that there is that moment, like I had the same with Quinn. I was like, I'm going to do it because we were okay. And then I got quite sick when he was about 10 weeks old. I got really unwell. So then my supply dropped. So then, tried everything possible. And then it came back up again. But I was like, I can't keep doing this, because we started mixed feeding.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
It's jaundice, from the beginning. And that's why we were doing the 3-hourly feed. We were doing top-ups. But then the top-up turned into a full feed.
Yeah.
And then I was unwell, and it just a snowball effect happens. And then there's this moment where, as a mum, you've got to stop putting pressure on yourself, and you've just got to let go, because the sooner you let go, the easier the journey becomes.
Yeah. And
I think that's when I finally accepted the fact that our breastfeeding journey had ended before the time that I wanted it to, because there was actually no time limit on it, that we were both a lot happier.
Yeah.
We were. We slowly gave in, and it was easier.
Yeah.
It was an easier process. We were happier.
Yeah. I think that's what you said. You kind of set these timelines, and I did. For some reason, I was like, I'm going to breastfeed till she's 1. For Maisie, I'd set this goal in my head, and then it was weird. I was like, so with Maeve, I never set any goal, because I'm like, then you would get upset, and I'm an overachiever as well. So I'm very much if I didn't reach that, I was going to be upset. So I learned, I suppose, second time around, and that's why, you're already a mum, but you learn not to put so much pressure on yourself. It's crazy that we put so much pressure on ourselves.
We do. We're literally doing it to ourselves. It's not coming from anyone else.
No.
Ourselves. And we are our own worst enemy and our own worst critics when it comes to being mothers, I swear.
You feel like everyone is looking around someone's judging me for but it's the same when you're breastfeeding, people are she needs to cover up, or she shouldn't be feeding, and then and then it's you feel like people are judging if you're giving a bottle, and then it's just you're just and it's
the baby's got formula. You can't win. You honestly
you can't win. And I guarantee no one's thinking those things. I've never looked around and thought those things for a mum. The only time I'll say something is when a kid is being really naughty and mum is holding a gun, and I'm like, you go mum, you've got this.
Mama needs support. Yes, you tell her she's doing a good job.
Don't walk past a mum and say, oh, you look like you got your hands full. We don't want to hear that. We just want to hear you're doing a great job, mum. Yeah.
Good job. Yeah, good for you, mama. Yeah, we already know.
I know, yeah. We know how hard it is. We don't need you telling us that.
We don't need confirmation.
We don't need you to tell us that, yes, it looks like you're doing it looks like you're making it look hard. And I'm like, great, that's just what I wanted to hear.
God. That's so funny.
So, and me and you, it's funny, we were kind of talking as well before we agreed to do this episode about you kind of losing, a bit of your identity when you have kids. And I had this conversation with Mark, my husband, about kind of losing a bit of my identity. And he kind of didn't get it. I don't know if he just took a bit of it as a personal attack on him, and it wasn't, because he's fantastic. But I was kind of saying not as much changes for dads as it does for mums. Well, as the sole, I suppose, the default parent, it's kind of, but it's a big shift in your identity. You kind of, I wasn't Lucy for a while. I was Maisie's mum. And, that was it. And I was like, did you kind of struggle with yourself as well? You're like, I don't know who I am anymore.
Huge identity crisis, major identity crisis. I think that was probably one of the biggest things that I, to date, have struggled with throughout this whole journey becoming a parent. Like, you know, like my partner is amazing. He's a fantastic dad. Like, I wouldn't have had kids with him if I didn't know he's going to be a great dad. And, you know, he's exceeded expectations, but it's, as the mum and the default parent, you lose so much of yourself that you kind of get to this low point that you accept it. Like I'm starting to get better now. He's over 10 months old, and I'm just starting to find myself again and who I am. It's a journey, it's a process, but like when you are in the midst of just being like, I'm just Quinn's mum. You were just Maisie's mum. You know, like when you're at that point, there's a moment where you do it, you accept it, and you're like, tomorrow is lost forever. It feels that way, right? It's not like that. It doesn't stay like that forever, but when you're in that moment, it sure feels like it. And like you almost drowning, you know? And it's hard. Like it is hard. I definitely struggled with that, and like that's when the depression kicked in and stuff like that as well. Like, you know, because I personally struggled with postnatal depression, and that added to it. That definitely didn't help it.
Yeah.
Because I had no outlet. I had no avenue.
Yeah. I think it's those first few months where it's like, you know, they need you so much, and sometimes you don't leave the house and you don't speak to any other adults, and you're just like, you know, you don't feel like yourself anymore. And then I was the exact same. I struggled with postnatal with Maeve, and I just felt so lost. And I remember someone said something like, what do you enjoy doing? And I was like, oh, like, I don't know anymore. And then I kind of said something like, oh, I like doing this with the kids. I like doing that. And then they're like, oh, no, for you. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. No, like it's just.
It's so true. I remember going to our first social outing after becoming a mum. And I actually had a bit of a panic attack. Never had panic attacks in my life. Never really been anxious. Like the normal, like, oh, I'm a bit panicky, but like I actually got really anxious because I was worried that I would have nothing to talk about. That I would be boring and no one would want to speak to me. And I would be that woman that only talks about her child. I honest to goodness, that's how I felt about it. And I look back at it now and it was fine. But there's so many mums and stuff like that. And there is more to life but you do feel like that's all your life is right now. And it's like, oh, what have you been up to? Oh, I personally haven't really done anything.
Yes. And you know, people are asking you and I'm just like, oh, like, but it's actually looking after a child is a full-time job. Like it's crazy, but we don't give ourselves enough credit for it. And like, you are in this kind of bubble. And I'm like, but like we've learnt that they're seasons, you know, like it's just a season of that where at the minute you're just someone's mum full-time 24/7, and that's okay, but it won't always be like that. But I think you do have to kind of remind yourself, like you are still you. And, you know, and I remember the same thing. I just felt so lost, and I was just like, I didn't know what I enjoyed anymore, and I didn't know like anything. Everything was just so difficult. And then I find I really missed my social life as well. Like really, really missed my social life when I became a mum.
Yeah, hugely. It's a big thing to let go of that part of it, like where you could literally just go like, hey, I'm going out tonight, get ready, get dressed up, have fun, not worry about what the next day was going to look like, or, you know, what time you had to be at home. If you had the actual energy to do it, because if you didn't, it didn't matter because you could catch up tomorrow. You have to plan these social events, but the social part of yourself of being around other like-minded people, your friends, it's hard not doing that for a while. It comes back.
Because you were such a social person as well, like before we had kids, like, and that was me. And like my sister jokes because she's not super social and she doesn't do a lot of stuff. So she jokes like, oh, when I become a mum, not too much will change for me. Whereas like, you know, me and Mark were both very social. Like we were out every weekend. We were doing stuff. We were going places. I was always brunching with the girls, seeing my friends, having wine night in, you know, that was me. Like, you you know, that's literally what I enjoy doing, is catching up with my friends. And
it's definitely.
and it's something like in my mind when I was pregnant, I was like, that's okay. I'll be able to just take the baby to brunch and I'll just take the baby with me. And honestly, that's how I thought. And I didn't think, I knew it would change a little bit, but not as much as it did. And I think for me, because I was the first one of all my close friends to have a baby. So it was, you know, I was really lost, and I've since spoke to my friends about it, and they didn't even know I was feeling like that, like that I was kind of missing them. And, you know, they would all kind of go out and I would miss out, and I do get big FOMO, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I can relate to that.
You know, in the group chat, and they're all going for dinner, and I was the only one. There was like 10 of us, and the only one to have a baby, and then they're all going out. And look, it sounds, like, so I mean, it sounds really bad for someone who's not a mum. They don't understand. I'm not saying I didn't wish I was a mum. I'm just saying, like, it was, I think part of me was just like getting used to that lifestyle and kind of grieving that like loss of my social life to start with.
Yeah, definitely. It is. It's a huge loss and huge adjustment too.
Yeah.
And that's part of your identity, isn't it? Like your friends and doing things, even something like, might not be socializing with people, but going to the hairdressers, going clothes shopping, or do you know what I mean? Like, you can't just go and do that when you have a baby.
Yeah.
So you do lose a lot of, like, all sense of self at one
You do.
point.
But like, I think that's what I've realized. Like, it's coming back now. Like, I've been on girls' weekends away, and I'm like, okay, like, you know, I'll actually go and now some of my friends have kids, so they'll come around with their kids, and, like, you know, it's a little bit easier. But before, when it was just me, like, I think Maisie was only at 3 weeks old, and they all came like, oh, we'll come to you. And they brought morning tea, and it was beautiful. And I remember sat there so tired though, so sleep deprived. I think I'd only had like an hour's sleep. And I remember sitting there and I was like, I don't remember, couldn't register anything they were talking about. I don't remember anything that was said. And I was just so tired. I was like a shell of myself, you know? And I've since told the girls that, and they had no idea. And I was like, honestly, I was just exhausted, and no one understands how tired a mum is, like how tired you are.
I don't think you ever get that sleep. But yeah, like you do, you manage it. But I think it's like, obviously some of your friends have children now. And like, I know with my closest friend, she has 2 children. Her oldest has just turned 5, and her youngest is 4 months older than Quinn.
Yeah.
So when I had Quinn, I just said to her, I am so sorry that it took me to have a baby to understand exactly what you needed when I needed to be there for you. And I couldn't be that person because I couldn't relate and understand.
Yes.
So it's now my turn to pass it on to someone else when they have their first. Yeah. Until you do it, you don't understand. You don't know what to look for. You just don't get it.
Yeah.
And but it's nice to be able to express to your friends and that's how you felt at the time too. Like, it's great to have that relationship.
It is. And it's nice, like, you were able to say that, like, wow, like, I didn't realize, because it is a shock, you know, and like, I know, because like Lucas mentioned, one of our friends, she was like, oh my God, she had her boy 6 months after Maisie, and she was like, wow, I can't believe you did this all on your own without asking for help, or like, oh, did your kid do this? And for me, I think that's where Mother's Group was really good, because I didn't know anyone with a baby. I didn't have any friends. So Mother's Group was great. So I made mum friends, and it was, then we're still the best of friends. And it was really good to have that. Because you do. Mums need this community. We need a village. We need to bounce off. And it's like, wait, is your kid being the Antichrist at the minute? Like, how old are they? Like, are they screaming when you leave the room? And you're like, oh, okay, wow, that's not just me. Like, every kid at this age.
No, it's not. Yeah, no, and we do. We need to surround ourselves with people that have actually been through it. Mother's Group's great. I didn't have to do a Mother's Group because I had friends that had already had children or like multiple children, so they'd already been through it.
Yeah.
But if I definitely would have gone down that road if I didn't have anyone near me, because you do need your village. You might have your friends and your family, but unless you've got someone that's actually been through that process, it's not going to be the exact thing that you need.
No, exactly. And that's the thing. It's like, it's amazing to have friends and family, but only mums know what mums are going through at this, in different ages as well. You kind of want like similar ages to you, like, so they, you know, they're in it as well. They're in the thick of it as well.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I was quite grateful that I had my best friend Maya. Yeah. Her little boy, like I said, 4 months. We were up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
Like, you know, we kind of synced with feeding times and stuff. So we were constantly messaging. And it was just nice to have that little support person, or just sending reels and videos to each other and just like random stuff. But it was just nice to have that that little like support person through that whole process.
And it's nice to kind of have that solidarity, you know, like at 4 a.m. when you're like, oh, I'm the only one awake, and I'm, actually I'm not. And it's weird. It feels less like alone, less lonely, and like, okay, I'm not the only one. And it definitely helps.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's great. It's definitely needed, that village. For sure.
It is.
Otherwise it's gonna be a struggle.
So I was going to ask you this question because it's quite an interesting one. So about, you know, this kind of, I suppose, like we said, like before we mentioned, like not as much changes for the dads, you know, and you know, like it does change, don't get me wrong, but not as much, you know. Did you find yourself, you know, kind of getting a little bit jealous, you know, of your partner at all, like when you first became a mum?
Very much so. Hugely. Yeah. Even like when it's like, yes, we're both going through this like change together, but more so like, I don't know if it's because we've carried the baby or if I found myself being a bit possessive and controlling as well. Like he was competent in the nappy changes and the swaddling and the feeding and doing all those things. But I always found that even though it wasn't my turn as per se, to get up to the baby and do all those things, I was still doing it. I was still hovering. I was still there.
So you're awake, listening to them feeding, and you're like, are they doing it right?
Exactly. Like it was almost like totally trusting, but there's a little bit of a trust issue came in. And it's like possession, like this natural instinct, like and even though it's our child, that was my baby. Like,
I know.
I mean? Like it was my baby, and like I will do everything for it, even though I would sit there and think, oh my God, I'm so tired. Like I don't want to do this. I still did it because I wanted to.
I know.
I forced it upon myself to do that, sort of put that pressure on again, as we do pressure.
Yes.
But I do find even now, like after over 10 months, you know, we've still gone to a bit of a rhythm. Like I can go out and do things now. And I have actually had a couple of nights away with a friend, just to actually have a night away.
Yeah.
If I was still in the same town, I couldn't relax. So we had to go away. But like the whole, you know, like I know that they do care and they do think about everything, but I feel like the mum guilt kicks in, right?
Oh my God.
I can't stay up too late because then I won't be able to give my full self in the morning, or I'm going to be a grumpy mum and don't want to be snappy at my baby, and I want to make the most of it. And like, and you yourself, you don't want to be tired and you don't have a hangover because it's not fun. I've tried it. It's not fun.
Oh, we've all done it.
Someone to fully take over for a whole day after. It's not fun, and age comes in as well, where you don't recover as well.
Oh, I know.
But there's still that jealousy of, I swear to God, they can switch off from being a dad sometimes.
Yeah.
And I wish that I had that ability to switch off from being mum and just be tomorrow, just for 12 hours, doesn't it? 24. Just for 12 hours, just switch off. And until I can master that, I think there will always be a bit of jealousy. Yeah. I think it's natural.
I think it is. And I think it's like from other mums I've spoken to as well, whose kids are older, I think it's always just one of these things. And whether it's a biological thing, I don't know, but it's crazy. Like, you know, it's just like, I will like in the house, I always know where my kids are, like by like from like sounds and stuff. I'll like know which we're in and probably what they're doing. And like Mark will have no idea, and he'd be like, oh, where are the kids? And I'm like, oh, she's there. He's like, oh, and like, it's so silly, but that's just like one example. And I'm just like, mums never switch off. We never do. And it's just like, you know, like all the mum reflex and stuff. It's just, you don't. And I did. I used to get, I think for me, I got jealous of like with Mark, like I said, he was so great, so hands-on. He still is, but like not as much changes for them. Like, you know, say like, oh, I'm just going to nip out and get a haircut. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, you know, it's just so easy. And like when I joined the gym, I had to find a gym that I could drag a baby and a toddler to, you know, like little things like that. Just makes it that little bit harder. And I used to get jealous about that. But then it's funny when you're in that kind of bubble, I think, of tiredness, and, you know, everything they do just annoys you. And you know, and then,
not breathing.
Stop breathing so loud.
You're chewing too loud. But
I know everything because you're so tired and you're just so on edge. And then now it's now you can look back and laugh. Now they're a bit older and we're sleeping, and now I can just nip out. But those first few months when you become a mum, it is a bit of like, oh, hold on, not that much has changed for you. And when we were both so social, I was like, okay, I felt like I was, really missing out, I think. But now it's crazy. Like, now we can laugh about it, but at the time, not so much.
I know. At the time, it is quite hard. Even like work-wise as well. Like, like I was the stay-at-home parent.
Yeah.
Just was kind of naturally happened. I was the one that stayed at home, and then he went back to work. Still continues to go to work. I'm still a stay-at-home mum at this current point in time. Not that I haven't chosen to do this. I've chosen to do this, but there's also that bit of like jealousy or envy that's like, I'd like to go to work and have a lunch break.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Those little things, and be talking to adults, like co-workers. My boss is, 2 foot tall and, tells me what to do and he doesn't even speak properly. But that's how it is. And it's those, I suppose, normal functioning adult things that we get jealous of, that it's just simple everyday things, but we can't just go and do it. And going to the hairdresser, my gosh. I mean, I know it takes probably 4 to 5 hours for us to go to the hairdresser. Still, that's just the nip out, right?
Yeah. I think that's the thing.
Go to the hairdresser.
It's funny, like I'll get jealous, like when because like Mark he will drive home from the airport. It's like a 2-hour drive every week. And I'm like, oh my God, I would love 2 hours in the car to myself. No kids, to just listen to a podcast or listen to my music or something. Yeah, like whenever I drive to like the city with the kids, it's just a nightmare. So I was like, I would love that. Yeah. But then like it's so silly. I get jealous of those aspects. But then if he turned around and said to me like, would you like to go to work? And I'll stay home. I'm like, oh God, no. Like I need to be with my babies. It's the same thing. It's like, oh no, I want to be with my babies. But I can be jealous of aspects, like.
That's what it is. It's the small, it's not the overall, it's just the part of it. Like on the other end as well, like I'm sure that our partners would like to stay at home and get up in the morning with our babies and, get to see their little personalities on the daily basis of what they get to do.
Yeah.
And, be that present parent in the moment on the regular. Yeah. And I'm sure that they get jealous of us as well, but
100%.
Yeah, but there's the shoes on the other foot. But honestly, there is that jealousy aspect. And it's not everything. It's just those little things.
It is. I know. Yeah. Sure. I think they do feel like that. And then when I do go away, then Mark's like, oh no, I'm happy to go back to work. Like the realization kicks in. Like, actually, no, I'm happy to go back to work. So,
yeah, most definitely.
But I think as well, like we were saying about nothing, like things change, but at least they don't have the hormonal changes. When you have a baby, you've got like, you've been through birth, so your body has changed, and then you've got the hormonal changes. Yeah. Whereas like I forget when they've become a dad, they haven't gone through that. And I don't know about you, but I found it really hard with this the intimacy side towards after you just had a baby with this. I remember Mum said it to me once and she's like, oh, like I remember feeling so touched out. And she was like, the last thing I wanted was with a baby all day. And then I put them down and then like, to then be touching at night. Sometimes you're just like, don't touch me, just leave. Like, I've had someone on me all day. And especially those first few months, it was just kind of like, I just want to be not held, not talked to, nothing, like it's
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when you finally get that moment to yourself of just even not listening to a single thing. It's just sitting in peace and quiet and just not having to, your little bubble has been invaded. And like, it's not like, it's got nothing to do with them. Personally.
No,
like
nothing.
Nothing's changed either. Like if anything, they've got more love and more affection towards you because you're in this little bubble. Like, you've just had this baby and this is your new life and everything.
Yeah.
And you're the opposite. You're not feeling that. Like it's no resentment to them. It's just I just need my space.
Yeah,
like,
and
you're not having that.
Yeah,
especially if you have an upset, clingy baby or an unwell baby, and you haven't even had the chance to go to the toilet, because you've had a baby with you all day, or you haven't had a shower, so you feel gross as well. Like it's all these things. Completely touched out. It's a major thing. Still happens every now and then as well.
Yeah.
Still happens.
Oh, I know. I remember like thinking like, especially first time around, I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, I don't, what is wrong with me? It's like the last thing on my mind. Cause I just felt just like, I didn't even want to be cuddled, nothing. And then it was just like, but then it comes back around, like, cause then they don't need you as much and it's just different. But yeah, like that was a shock for me. I was like, wow, like I was like, that's like, I, don't want to be cuddled by my husband. And it was just like, is something wrong? You start think, what have I done? Like it's just crazy. But same thing, we put so much pressure on ourselves to kind of get back to how we were before we had kids, like it's just, yeah, before we were running around after kids all day and,
Yeah. Yeah, we do put a lot of pressure on ourselves to get back on the old bouncing back and stuff. Like not just mentally, like physically as well. It's a big change, and like still coming to terms with how my body looks now. Like I've always struggled with my weight. I've always yo-yoed, but more so after having a baby. Like I felt amazing during my pregnancy. I was quite lucky to have a beautiful pregnancy. I wasn't sick. I wasn't tired. I mean, granted, I was just normally tired.
Yeah.
And with working, it still worked the long hours, working away. Still flew until I could, not like doing FIFO work. And then after a baby, I thought I would have felt worse being pregnant. It was actually felt worse after having him.
Yeah.
Hormones are insane. Best thing I did was go and get my bloods done too.
Oh, okay.
Just to check everything.
Yeah.
But I gained a lot of weight after, and I'm slowly getting back to me. But it's more the mental side of it, just dealing with that, how I look.
I think that's the thing. It's like we put so much pressure on ourselves, and I still do it, and I have to nip myself in the bud. Like I've got 2 girls. I was like, I don't want my girls being in this environment. And I was the same. Like I used to when I had Maisie, compare myself to before I had a baby, and then I was always doing that. Like I was like, okay, and then for me, I was really bad. I would compare myself to other mums. Like, well, she's had a baby 6 months ago. Why don't I look like that? And like prime example was one of my mums I met at mum's group, and she's literally got abs of steel. She looks phenomenal. But she's at the gym 6 times a week. She puts in the effort. And I remember looking and I was saying to Ma, I was like, oh, her boy's the same age as Maisie. How come I don't look like that? But then I had to make myself, I was like, hold on. I didn't even look like that before I had kids. Why do I think I'm going to look like it now?
I know, we do. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We do.
Do I go to the gym 6 times a week? No. Yeah. Of course, well done her, but I'm like, why do we have to do that? Like, why do we have to compare to ourselves? And I still do it now with Maeve, and I'm like, I, lost this much weight by this age after having my first baby. Whereas this point, and I still compare now. And I was like, I didn't bounce back as quick, and it's crazy. Yeah. It's just the pressure we put on ourselves.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. And again, our partners love us how we are.
Yeah.
And it's funny how we personally go, no, I need to look like this. I need to look like that. And I straight up refused to buy myself clothes for ages. I just started buying clothes to fit me now, to feel comfortable now. But there for a while there, I was like, I can't wear anything because it's either pregnancy clothes, maternity clothes, or pre-pregnancy, and nothing was fitting me appropriately.
Yeah.
So now that I've slowly started to do these things, I'm like, I actually don't feel as bad. Because I was trying to be what I was.
Yeah.
Not accepting who I am and just living and being happy with how I am. Yeah. And worrying about my health more than anything, not my actual appearance.
That's the thing.
It's more about your health.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And I've learned that that will all come, but you need to be accepting, and, your life has changed. You're a mum now, and, mine was the stretch marks. I'm covered in stretch marks, and that's probably something that will never go. No matter how much weight I would lose, that would never go. And, now, and my cesarean scar and all these things now, I'm becoming proud of that now, especially after having girls. I'm like, no, do you know what? It's just, this is it. This is what happens. Yeah. And, but yeah, it's crazy. And I remember looking at myself and piking myself against myself in the mirror about after, my body after having kids. But then I remember one day I was like, what are you on about? You've got 2 healthy children. You've got a husband that loves you and is attracted to you. And I was like, why are you feeling like this? It's crazy.
Exactly. What you've done is amazing. We should be celebrating our bodies for what we have actually done.
Yeah.
And we need to give ourselves a bit of grace and be kinder to ourselves, because we've been through a huge journey.
I know.
Not just pregnancy, it's the postpartum as well. Your body goes through such a huge change after that as well.
And it takes,
it's massive.
And it takes years apparently for your hormones to level and your body to kind of get back, and not even the body, but your abs to get, there's so much that happens. It's crazy. We should just be oh, that's how, And as well, I don't know about you, I used to like compare as well on social media, like to other mums. And I'm like, well, like, especially like in celebrities, I'm like, they've probably got a personal trainer. They've got like a chef. They've got
a personal chef. Exactly. Like, I'm lucky to have lunch because I need to run around and cook things. But like, if I had someone cooking for me, well, God, I'd have 3 meals a day and have snacks myself. Like,
oh my God,
you know,
I literally live off like coffees and like crusts of bread that the kids don't eat and like half-eaten bits of cheese and, you know.
Yeah, the leftover cut off bits of fruit. And
if I ate what they ate, it'd be fine, but I don't because this fruit is so expensive. I'm like, oh no, like that's for them. Like Mark will go to eat some fruit. I'm like, no, that's for the kids. Like it's too expensive.
Yeah, don't touch the good stuff.
Oh, I know. Oh, I know. So do you find as well, like, you know, for me, I've learnt about this thing called seasons, you know, like you kind of go through different seasons of parenting. And when I became a first time mum, I suppose for me, I wished a lot of it away. And I think because things were so, you know, harder and, you know, a bit of a shock and I, you know, I found myself wishing away, like, I can't wait till she sleeps through the night. I can't wait till, you know, she goes down for a nap and I can't wait, you know, all these little things that were quite hard. And then you feel guilty for doing that. And did you find yourself doing that as well?
I definitely did. I think it was around the 4-month mark. We were starting to get into a routine and then obviously we were going through a really bad sleep regression and, you know, like I was home alone, like David was working and all those sorts of things. And it was like you get yourself stuck in a rut of we should have everything sorted by now. You've been on this earth for 4 months. And like I definitely wished away those 4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
I wished that away hugely, like still dealing with the guilt to this day with it. And that was 4 to 8 like months ago. Sorry, not 8 months, 4 to 6 months ago. And yeah, like you just wish like you'd look at the clock and you go, it's only been 5 minutes.
Yes.
When's nap time?
Yes.
You know, you think, when's nap time? I just want some peace. I just want some quiet. And it's not even to do anything. It's literally just to be alone. Yeah. And I think that's what kicks in. Yeah. You just want some alone time.
Yeah.
No, you want to go out. You don't want to do anything. You don't want people to come over. You want some alone time and some space.
Yeah.
Yeah. So major guilt with that for sure. Huge guilt.
It is. And I think that's the thing as a first time mum and a lot of other mums I've spoken to have been the same. And with your first, it is because that's the thing, you don't know when it's going to end and you kind of, you know, it's all new and you can't see light at the end of the tunnel and you're just like, oh my God, I want this to be over. And like I was like, I can't wait till she's eating solids properly and I don't have to make baby food and then little things like that. And it's just, and then I felt so bad wishing things away. And I think that's what I've noticed becoming a mum second time around. I was like, you don't really have that as much because I think with Maeve, I knew I was not going to have any more. So she was my baby and it's weird. You relish those things. I remember like, I didn't mind getting up in the night for a feed because I'm like, this isn't going to last forever. And, you know, and I was enjoying these nighttime feeds and then I enjoy it's so different. Like hindsight is such an amazing thing.
Yeah. Like I miss those nights of, the sleep deprivation was a difficult time. Yeah. And it was hard. And, you know, I'm grateful that I can sleep through the night. But yeah, I miss those cuddles.
Yes.
You know, like he doesn't want to cuddle anymore.
I know.
So I miss that, you know, that newborn on your chest all the time. Like at the time you wanted them off, you wanted the space, you would touch that. But like you said, hindsight, my God, I wish that I could go back in time and just enjoy that because you don't know. Oh, it's going to get me upset now.
Yeah, I know.
You don't know when you don't know when your last is going to happen. You don't know when you're going to have your, you know, last put down. Like he self-soothes now. I can't really let him sleep anymore. I miss her. You know, despite what people say about self-soothing and that, like it's brilliant. Okay, but I do miss hugging him to sleep.
Yeah,
I miss all those things. So
I remember. Yeah,
it's those little things that you miss, and everything will always be a last, but you don't get a warning of when your last is coming.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh my gosh, like it's been a week since we've had that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you don't know like when the last time you're going to rock them to sleep, or you know, the last time they'll crawl. all those little things. And I think that's the difference when you're not a first time mum. You kind of do, you know this, and you kind of, I think you take the pressure off yourself a bit more because you know it doesn't last forever. And you're like, I think as well, you're like, this could be the last time I rock them to sleep. But I still feel guilty for feeling that with Maisie, because I remember just, you do kind of wishing it away a bit more, but you don't realize how fast time goes. Like it really, really goes so fast.
Yeah. The best advice, like the best saying or that anyone ever told me was the days might be long, but the years are short.
Yeah.
And it is so true. He will be one in less than 2 months' time. And it really feels like I brought him home from hospital 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So it's very true. Sometimes you go, oh my God, like today has just gone on forever and ever and ever, and it's never going to end. And that the minutes feel like hours. But then you go to sleep and wake up in the morning and it's like, the week's gone.
I know.
And then a month's gone.
Yeah.
Time is cruel.
I think for those mums that are in that, cruel. Like I remember that when I look at the clock and I'm like, oh my God, it's only 10 o'clock. And like we've been up for 5 hours. We've done everything. And I was like, oh my God, and you're like, how am I going to get through the end of the day? And like, I think that's the thing when you're in this kind of haze and, but it's not always like that. Like it's different. No. And, I always said to Mark, because we're only going to have 2 kids and, Mark's had the snippy snip, so no more babies for us. But I would just keep having babies to have babies. I keep saying I would, and that's why. But but then I read something really interesting and it said that I don't want to have another baby. I just want to go back and do it again with my babies.
Yeah.
I want, especially
time travel machine,
especially first time mum. I wish I could go back with the knowledge I knew now and all the experiences and everything, and take the pressure off and just enjoy those moments more, and and for the mums, I suppose, going through that now who might be struggling, and it is like, it's a hard thing to do, becoming a mum. And it's different when someone's like, oh, enjoy it. Like, that's not what we're saying. It's just acknowledge that, it is hard, but it will go so fast. And this could be the last time you rock your baby to sleep. And, think of it like that, and it's just,
Cherish those little things, even if they don't seem like they're going to end and they're not the most amazing things. It's all a part of the journey in becoming a parent and having children.
It is.
For sure.
It is.
Because, one day they'll be off to uni or something. Do you know what I mean? Like they'll be walking out the door and moving into their own home before we know it. So we need to cherish these moments when they're little.
And I feel so bad for my mum because I'm like, oh my God, you went through all of this with us. I'm so sorry. And sometimes I don't even answer your call because I'm busy. And I'm like, if my girls didn't answer my call, I'd be crying all day. So I was like, so for the mums out there, love your mum. Go hug your mum.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure.
She needs a bit of love too.
She needs a cuddle because it brings it all back to them as well. That's what I've noticed. Because my son's the first grandchild, and I noticed that mum has these glimmering moments of it takes her back to when I was his age.
Yeah,
that was 30 years ago.
Yeah,
but it's I do see her looking at him sometimes okay, that's when I realised I need to make the most of this now.
Yes, yeah. And I think that's the thing, mum said the same as a nana. It's different because they kind of get to have all the fun bits, and enjoy them without having to have all that pressure and stress and the sleep deprivation, all that. They get to just enjoy them, and they know all right, this goes so fast, I'm just going to enjoy them. And it's nice that they get to do that.
It is beautiful to say, actually.
It is.
I love it.
Do you find as well, your mum, do you have disagreements with her? Because based on some of your parenting choices.
Hugely. It's never an argument. It's just we're very opinionated and it's just reassuring and trying not to snap back and not offend them either how they raised us.
Yeah.
Because, it was the early 90s when they raised us. Completely different world.
Yeah.
We've had 30 years of knowledge and it's just trying to educate them too, and not for them to overstep either, because I have found myself trying to not offend, but also that's my child and we're trying to help.
Yeah.
But that's not what we do in our family.
I know.
How we run.
Yeah. Yeah. We're the exact
So
same.
finding that balance.
It's hard because it's like, I think it's easier when it's your own mum. It'd be hard if you had a mother-in-law that was, you had to kind of say things to. I think, mine's in Ireland and she's brilliant. So it's fantastic. And she, she's just like go with the flow. But it would be hard to have a mother-in-law that's very involved, and it would be harder to say it. Like with your own mum, you can kind of just be like, oh, mum, no, we don't do that anymore. Jesus, that was back in the day.
You've got that relationship where you can actually speak like that to your own mother. Whereas if it is your in-laws, it's a bit different.
Yes.
Like you've got to be assertive and remind yourself that you're the child's parent, but also like you don't want to cause any issues.
Yeah, you don't want to upset anyone. With your own mum, you can just say it.
Yes.
But it's that's a fine line. That was quite hard as well, but kind of, and I think it's a bit of a shock for them becoming nanas because it's like actually like no. And I remember our mums sitting and laughing at me when I had Maisie about my sleep routine. I still remember both of our mums sat having a coffee.
I remember that. Yeah.
Oh my God. I was like, Mum, I'm off to work. Maisie needs to go down at 10:37 for a sleep. And like our mums would just be like, oh, 10:37. Haha. Like, just absolutely pulling the piss. And I was like, seriously, it works. And I think it was like after a while, like mum was like, okay, I'm going to eat my words. Like, her having a good routine and this sleep schedule that you did worked. And I was like, but then I feel I'm sad for them as well because like I always said to mum, like, what did you do if you didn't didn't know what to do? And she was like, well, I had this book and she's given me this baby book and it's honestly like it's good. But like I was like, is this all you use? Like there was no internet, there was no forums, there was nothing to kind of be able to get your own information about stuff.
It was only the only available like childcare facilities or the only available parents around you or their mothers.
Yeah.
That raised them.
Yes.
Back in the 60s.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, a lot changes.
Like huge change.
Yeah.
Because even so, like with my own grandmother, she's in her late 70s. Like she's quite an open person as well. So she's finding it fascinating, the difference. But when she gives advice on things, it's like, we'll take it with a pinch of salt and, or just to try to educate her on how we do things like baby-led weaning. Oh, my gosh. My mum and my grandma. My mum still can't watch watch Quinn eat, seriously.
Yeah.
But he's so good with his food. He loves his food.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but she's like, oh, God, we never did anything like that.
Yeah. It was the same with I remember allergies. I remember I was like, trying to introduce allergens and my mum was like, oh, I don't need to worry about that. There was none of that when you were kids. I'm like, well, there probably was. There were kids with allergies. We were just lucky not to be one of them. And I remember being like, I've got to, I remember with Maeve and I was like, look, she's got eczema. So they kind of told me she might more likely have a food allergy. So, give her a tiny amount and then see. Whereas mum's like, oh, we never did that back in the day, laughing. And then luckily I only gave Maeve a tiny bit of egg because she had a really bad reaction. And then mum was like, oh God, I probably would have given you scrambled eggs. I was like, well, if that happened, she would have had an anaphylactic reaction and gone to hospital. And it's just it's like little things like that. I was like, oh, and then even when she was allergic to egg, they just don't think it was like, oh, I went around, mum's like, I've made egg sandwiches for lunch. I was like, mum, she's allergic to egg, really, really allergic. And she was like, oh, I forgot. And I was there was none of this when you were kids. And I was like, yeah, mum,
I remember my mum doing the same because with the allergen stuff, with it introducing, she goes, we only had peanuts. That was the only thing we worried about was peanuts. And even then they didn't even worry about it then. We did
No.
Yeah, they didn't worry about it. It was just that it was known that children could have allergies with peanuts.
Yeah.
And eggs, mum goes, oh, you eating eggs at a very young age. I was like, yeah. And like you said with Maeve, with her allergy, be a whole different ballgame if you just introduce eggs the way that our parents did.
Yeah.
So it's funny how things have changed, generational.
And that, I think that's the thing. And just being aware of stuff and we're the same with gentle parenting, I'm not, we don't do timeouts and I don't smack the kids and all of those things. I'm more aware. And do you know what, if Maisie, because my eldest is very sensitive and sometimes, she'll be really upset and teary and I'm like, but that's her personality. And I'm like, I've heard people say you stop crying. And I'm like, I don't want to tell her to stop crying because then, that was very much, the other generation, stop, boys don't cry. And I was like, but they're still going to have things
in your emotions.
Yeah. I'm very much know, like have a cry. I feel better when I have a cry. Have a cry. It's okay.
Oh,
like
me too. Everyone loves to cry.
have a cuddle.
And I'm going to be big on that too. Raising a boy.
Yes.
You need to be in touch with your feelings and emotions, because that what makes you a great human being, is being understanding and in touch with not just your own, but everyone else's around you. And I don't want to raise a child that, you know, if he's upset, he's allowed to cry. I don't want him to think he can't cry because it's a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. Like it's normal.
Yeah, let it out.
We're gentle. Yeah, we're definitely gentle parents as well. But again, I think it's generational.
It is. And like, I can see Mum looking at me sometimes. I'm like, oh, and I'm like, oh no, we don't say that. Like, you know, but, no, and then I'll tell her why and she's like, oh, okay. So yeah, I think it's definitely, it's a bit of a shock with that, like, you know, navigating nanas and grandparents and but just kind of
family in general.
Family in general. I suppose that's the thing as a mum, just go with your gut, stand up for yourself. You know, if the baby's getting passed around and you're like, I want to feed my baby or I just want to hold my newborn, like that's another thing. I'm like, I want my baby back. Just say it, you know, like it's just, you know, no one's going to remember that time when you were like, I wanted my baby back. And they were like, what? The mum wants her baby back? You know, but in your head, you're afraid to upset anyone and, you know, just go with your gut, Mum, you know, like it's like.
And people don't have to come and visit you straight away either. We stuck to our guns with that one for sure. We lived in our little love bubble because we were in hospital for a week because we had complications and there was a lot of issues. So like I felt like we had that moment taken away. So when we came home from the hospital, we took our time, obviously like immediate family, like mums and everybody and siblings came to visit, but that was it. Yeah. We just left it. And then until we were ready, that's when we slowly let people come and visit. Yeah. And it's a quick visit. Yeah. So,
yes. I always say that to mums. Yes. I always say that to mums. I'm like, enjoy your newborn bubble. Like, enjoy that bubble because you don't get that time back. And, you know, and if you're listening to this and you're not a mum and, you know, you're going to visit a mum, go stay for a little bit, not too long, stay for a little bit, make her a coffee, take some food around.
Take food.
Take food. Yeah. More food, the better.
Dishes, do the dishes.
Yes, I know. And that's the thing. I think it's just like, look after mum as well. Like we've been through something, like everyone's about the baby, but people forget about the mum, you know, like check in on mum.
Even something simple like, oh, do you need to have a shower? I'll hold your baby while you have a shower.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got one of those little clingy babies that don't want to let go. Oh. Yeah. It's always checking with the parents for sure because everyone just wants to see the baby. Yeah. And like that's when you get a bit like, oh, everyone's forgotten about me already. Like I don't exist anymore. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's helpful for sure.
It definitely is. So Tam, I've got one more question for you today. Yes. So if you could go back to when you first had little Quinn, what would be the one bit of advice you would give to yourself?
Oh, my God, there is a lot. There is a lot, actually. Yeah, oh, gosh, I wish I could go back and tell myself things, but I think the biggest takeaway would be to follow your gut, honestly. Like, as a first-time mum, I've got nothing to compare it to, and, like, I haven't done it before, so honestly, I don't know, right? I haven't experienced it. It's not like you've worked a job and stuff like that. Like it's completely different to working. But it's you get this gut instinct. There's like this intuition that you get. Even your partner, like not everyone will have it, but I know that my partner got it. And there was a lot of things that through our early journey with like having a newborn, like with the breastfeeding, there was a lot of things, a lot of interference per se. That led to us not feeding him and him being unwell and certain things with the labour as well. Seriously, follow your gut instinct. You will have that moment where and get a second opinion, get a third opinion as well. And we didn't. We took, you know, certain people's word for it because that was their job. That's their livelihood. They would know more than us. But we deep down, you know your own kid. Yeah. And also give yourself some time. You need time to heal. You can't be superwoman. Like that, I wish I gave myself time because like not just because I had the C-section and all that stuff. I didn't allow myself time. And I think that's when the postnatal depression really kicked in is because I never gave myself that moment and I put myself on a pedestal. You do. You really do. You put so much pressure on yourself to try and be this
try and do everything, and you've just become a mum, you've just had a baby, and it's just like, you know, and everything can wait. The washing can wait, the cooking can wait. Like, do you know what? If you live off freezer food and take out and
to a friend, they will understand too. Like, you don't have to be the one to contact everyone. You don't have to plan the meals. You don't have to do the washing and look after your baby. Make sure your partner's okay. And then also to check in with your family. Like, it is a lot, and you've got to allow that time. You never get that moment back. And I honestly wish that I gave myself time. And when I was ready to slowly chip away at those little things, because like you said, the washing's always going to be there.
It never ends.
It doesn't stop. So just leave it. Don't worry about it.
Cuddle your baby.
Hug your baby and enjoy that moment.
Yeah.
Just being in that bubble.
It's true. Everything can wait. And I know sometimes you feel like I should be doing other things, but do you know what? If all you've done today is feed your baby and let your baby sleep on you, that's the two most important things you could do today. Nothing else can beat that. And I wish someone had told me that first time around, that, you know, if that's all you've done today, and, you know, that's more than you'll ever, you know, that is so precious, and we're so lucky to get that experience. So if that's you, then you feed that baby, you get that, you make it feel warm and comfortable and cozy, you know, like it's just, that's what's the most important thing.
Just, and also look after yourself.
Yes.
Get up and have that shower and brush your hair.
Ask for help.
You don't have to get out of your PJs. I mean, God, I lived in mine.
Oh, God.
Just doing little things, just the little things, and just enjoying the time. Yeah, hugely. It goes very quickly. And, if I had a little time machine, I'd go back.
Oh, sure. I know. I think every mum would. Honestly, I think every mum would, and I would love to go and do it again without all the mum guilt. And honestly, it'd probably still be there. To be fair, like, we're our worst. Yeah, we're the worst people for putting pressure on ourselves, mums.
We are. We do it to ourselves. That's the reality of it.
But it's the greatest thing in the world. You know, we're
oh my God, it's
so lucky.
I wouldn't change it for anything. I can't even put it to words. I don't know how. I've been asked multiple times. I don't know about you as well. What's the best thing about being a mom?
My God.
Honestly, I can't answer that.
You can't.
I actually don't, because, I mean, how much time have we got? We've already had plenty of time. But like, I cannot put into words why I love it and what's the best thing.
Oh, I know.
It's just everything.
You just can't. Everything. You can't. You can smell their head, and that'll, you know, like that's it. Like, oh God.
Yeah.
I know. It's like when you really, really want a break, and you're like, oh God, I need a break. And then like you're doing stuff around the house, and you find like a sock, and I'm like, oh, I miss them. Like, you know, or you're waiting for them to go to bed, and then they go to bed, and then you feel guilty, and
like, I want them back. It's too quiet. Yeah.
Honestly. Yeah. It's the greatest thing, but it is the hardest thing you'll ever do. I remember Mum told me that. I was like, she had 2 kids, and I said, I was like, oh, I'm ready to start having a family. And she was like, it's the best thing you'll ever do. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do, but it's the best thing you'll ever do. And I remember she sold me then, and I was like, okay. Just when she started talking about it, I could just see this love on her face. And I was like, you can't explain it. You know, you just can't. Like, it's, Until
you feel it. You haven't, there's no words to describe it. It is.
Welcome to the best club in the world, you know?
Yes.
It's this secret club that no one can explain apart from a mum, you know? It's just like, oh, welcome. When my friend has a baby, I'm like, welcome to the Motherhood Club. It's beautiful. We're going to cry more than ever. But, you know, good and bad tears, but it's worth it, I promise.
But it's so worth it. Oh, God, yeah. And it's so hard to explain. It's a mix of emotions, but it's the best journey ever. It is. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Tam, for coming on and sharing and being so honest as well about all these kind of things that happen, all these feelings we go through, because, you know, it's not always like that on social media. And sometimes when you go to a mum's groups, you know, mums, oh, I'm having a great time. My baby sleeps, you know, and sometimes you just want to hear the realness of it. You know, it was a hard transition. I did miss my social life, and it doesn't mean we don't love being a mum. And, you know, it's not a negative thing. It's just like, you know, sharing that, so then other mums feel less guilty for feeling these things, you know?
Yeah, exactly. We need to normalize it a bit
We
more and
do.
be more accepting of
We
these emotions and feelings and the struggles that we go through.
Yeah.
Because some people might not share and think everything's great, but honestly, that mum that said that everything's good, she's been in the same position that you
Yeah.
have when you're struggling and having a hard time. So some
Yeah.
people don't want to express that or step, delve into it. So
Yeah.
find your village, big time. Find your village and find those people, like yourself as well. Like you and I have been able to speak
Yeah.
off camera as well since the journey has happened. And it's
Yeah.
just, if you find that one person, honestly, it'll make a world of
All
difference
you need
to
is
just
someone,
speak candidly.
someone just be like, do you know what? I feel the exact same way. And it's literally like a weight off your shoulders. It's like, oh my God. It's like, wow, I'm not the only one that feels these kind of feelings. And I'm, kind of like feeling guilty on yourself. But yeah, the
Yep.
mum guilt will
Yeah.
get you. It's
Your
always going
feelings
to be
are
there.
valid. Yep.
It's always there.
Yep. Oh, yeah. It doesn't go away.
It doesn't
It
go
gets
away.
easier, but it doesn't go away.
I think you notice it. You're like, hold on, why am I feeling guilty about this? This is crazy.
And then you snap yourself right out of it.
Oh, thank you
Yeah.
so much, Tam. I'm
Thank
so
you.
happy you
It's
could
been
come on and
great. Thank you.
share. Thank you. And go
Yes,
hug
thanks,
that baby
Lucy.
before he starts running around everywhere.
I know. Give your girls a hug and a kiss too.
I will. Thank you so much, Tam.
Thanks, Lucy.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Real Mummy podcast. Remember, every mum's journey is unique and you are doing an amazing job. Please be sure to head over to our website at www.realmummypodcast.com to stay up to date with the latest episodes and dive into our recent blog articles filled with even more wisdom and stories. We absolutely love connecting with our listeners, so don't forget to follow us on social media. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Real Mummy Podcast. Join the conversation, share your thoughts, and become part of our supportive mum community. And I'd love to hear from you. Have you got a topic you want covered? Do you have a guest you'd love to hear from? Reach out to us through our website or social media. Your input is invaluable and helps us to create the content that matters most to you. Thank you for being part of the Real Mummy podcast family. Until next time, stay strong, stay kind to yourself, and remember, you're never alone on this journey. You've got this.